The crackle of the old public address system was a familiar sound at Kano State Secondary School, but the words that followed sent a jolt through the dusty afternoon air. Attention students! This is to announce the inaugural Miss School Pride pageant. Vice Principal Alabi's voice boomed, laced with uncharacteristic excitement. In Class 4B, a collective gasp was followed by a flutter of excitement. Girls instinctively sat up straighter, their minds already racing towards glittering gowns and sparkling tiaras. Halima Ibrahim, however, kept her eyes fixed on a geography textbook, tracing the course of the River Niger with her finger. Such things, she had long learned, were not for girls like her. Girls whose bodies were described not as curvaceous but as big. Girls whose strength was more useful fetching water from the well than parading on a stage. After the final bell, a crowd gathered around the notice board where the bright poster was displayed. Halima hung back, watching as the popular and petite Aisha, flanked by her friends, loudly declared her intention to win. The prize is 50,000 naira and a brand new sewing machine, Aisha exclaimed, her voice slicing through the chatter. My mother will finally see I'm not just a pretty face. Halima's heart gave a little tug. 50,000 naira. That was more than her mother, a pepper seller at the bustling Canteen Quarry market, made in 6 months. It could fix their leaking roof, buy new textbooks for her younger brothers, and so much more. But as she turned to leave, a voice inside her, one she usually silenced, whispered a dangerous question. Why not you? The queue for the registration forms the next day was a spectacle of giggles and preening. Halima stood at the very end, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She felt invisible. A tall, broad-shouldered shadow amidst the chattering slender girls. When it was finally her turn, Mr. Yusuf, the art teacher overseeing registration, peered at her over his spectacles. Halima, is this for your sister? He asked, not unkindly. No, sir. For me, she replied, her voice barely a whisper. A sudden silence fell around her. Then, from behind, a sneer erupted, sharp and cruel. It was Aisha's friend Binta. Halima, are you sure you read the poster correctly? This is a beauty pageant, not a wrestling competition, Binta sneered. The comment hit its mark and a wave of laughter rippled through the crowd. Heat flooded Halima's face. Aisha, to her credit, shot Binta a warning look, but the damage was done. The phrase, "Who will clap for an elephant?" was muttered just loud enough for Halima to hear as she snatched the form and fled, the paper crumpling in her sweaty palm. She didn't stop running until she reached the deserted girls' latrine, where she locked herself in a stall, hot tears of shame mingling with the stifling, unclean air. The walk home from school had never felt longer. The crumpled form in Halima's bag felt as heavy as a bag of cement. Each step was weighed down by the echoing laughter and the sting of Binta's words. She took the longer route, avoiding the main road where she might see anyone she knew. Her mind replayed the scene at the notice board, the confident smiles of the other girls, their easy grace. They moved through the world as if they owned it, while she always felt she was apologizing for taking up too much space. Her family's compound was a hive of activity when she arrived. Her mother, Mama Halima, was pounding yam in a large mortar, her powerful arms rising and falling in a steady rhythm. The rhythmic thud, thud, thud was the sound of home. Two of her younger brothers were chasing a chicken around the courtyard, their shouts filling the air. Halima slipped past them into the single room they all shared, quickly shoving the form under her thin mattress. How could she even think of such a thing? The pageant was a world of satin and spotlights. Her world was one of charcoal fires and fetching water. The gulf between them seemed impossible to bridge. Halima was quiet throughout dinner, pushing her tuwo and miankuka around her bowl. Mama Halima noticed. Her daughter's silence was a language she understood fluently. "What is troubling you, my child?" she asked, after the younger children had been shooed outside to play. "Did you fail a test?" Halima shook her head, unable to meet her mother's eyes. She finally mumbled the truth, expecting a practical dismissal, maybe even a laugh. Instead, Mama Halima was quiet for a long moment, wiping her hands on her wrapper. "This Aisha," Mama Halima began, her voice low and steady. "Is she the one whose mother sells frozen chicken at the junction?" Halima nodded. I see her. She carries herself like a little queen. But tell me, Halima, does she know how to bargain at the market until the seller admits defeat? Can she carry a full bucket of water on her head without spilling a drop? Can she soothe a crying child with just a song?" Halima looked up, surprised. "Beauty, my daughter, is not just what fits into a narrow mirror. It is also strength. It is intelligence. It is a kind heart. But," she added, her tone turning serious, "if you choose to do this, you must be ready for the stones people will throw. Can your spirit carry that weight?" Mama Halima's words echoed in Halima's mind all night. They were a shield against the taunts of her classmates. Her mother, a woman who had buried a husband and raised 4 children alone through sheer will, saw a different kind of beauty. A useful beauty, a resilient beauty. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Halima pulled the crumpled form from under her mattress. She smoothed it out on the wooden trunk that served as their table. With a determined hand, she filled in her name, Halima Ibrahim. She would not tell anyone at school. The ridicule would only intensify if they knew she was serious. This would be her secret battle. She thought of the 50,000 naira. She imagined handing it to her mother, seeing the worry lines on her forehead soften for just a moment. This wasn't about a crown. It was about a roof that didn't leak during the rainy season. It was about proving that value could not be measured by a dress size. With a resolve she hadn't felt in years, she placed the completed form in her bag. The elephant was going to walk onto the stage, and she would walk with the grace of a queen. Submitting the form was an act of sheer courage. Halima waited until the break, when Mr. Yusuf's office was empty. He took it from her with a slight frown. "Halima, you understand there are expectations. There will be a talent round, an intelligence round, and of course, the evening gown round," he said, his tone implying she might want to reconsider. "I understand, sir," she said, her voice firmer than she felt. As she left, she heard him sigh. The first hurdle was crossed, but the track ahead was lined with obstacles. The news spread like wildfire through dry grass. By afternoon, everyone knew. The whispers followed her from the classroom to the assembly ground. Can you believe it? She actually submitted the form. Some laughed, others just shook their heads in pity. Aisha's group now openly mocked her, imitating what they thought would be her clumsy walk. Halima felt their eyes like hot coals on her skin. She kept her head high, focusing on her mother's words. She would show them that an elephant was not clumsy. It was powerful, intelligent, and majestic. But first, she had to survive the auditions. The audition room was intimidating. A long table was set up with Vice Principal Alabi, Mr. Yusuf, and Mrs. Chuku, the stern literature teacher, seated as judges. About 20 girls fidgeted in the hallway. One by one, they were called in. Halima heard snippets of singing, rehearsed speeches, and sometimes dead silence followed by a girl rushing out in tears. When her name was called, her legs felt like water. Inside, the fluorescent light was harsh. "Well, Halima," Vice Principal Alabi began, not unkindly, "tell us why you want to be Miss School Pride." Halima took a deep breath. "Sir, I believe the title should represent every girl in this school, not just the ones who look a certain way. I want to show that beauty includes confidence, intellect, and pride in who you are." Mrs. Chuku raised an eyebrow, but made a note. For the talent section, Halima didn't sing or dance. She recited a powerful poem by a renowned Nigerian poet about the strength of womanhood, her voice gaining strength with each line. The room was silent when she finished. They hadn't expected that. The list of 10 finalists was to be posted on a Friday. The anticipation had turned the school into a pressure cooker. Halima avoided the notice board all morning, her stomach in knots. During lunch, her best friend Fatima found her hiding under the neem tree. Halima, you have to see. Fatima grabbed her hand, her face alight with excitement. They posted the list. Halima's heart stopped. She allowed herself to be dragged across the schoolyard. A crowd was already gathered. She saw Aisha squealing with delight. She had made it. Pushing through, Halima scanned the list, her eyes darting past name after name. Her own name wasn't there. Disappointment, sharp and bitter, washed over her. Of course, it was a foolish dream, but as she turned to leave, Fatima grabbed her arm. Halima, look! At the bottom. Halima looked again. There, the last name on the list was hers. Halima Ibrahim. She had made it. The shock was so profound she couldn't even smile. The real battle had just begun. Making the finals made Halima a target. The subtle mockery turned into open hostility. In the hallway, boys would pretend to be crushed against the wall as she passed, groaning, "Watch out, the elephant is coming." Girls in her class would moo softly when the teacher wasn't looking. Aisha, who had previously been mildly dismissive, now looked at her with cold contempt. Halima's presence on the list was, in Aisha's eyes, an insult to the other contestants. The worst came when someone slipped a crude drawing into her locker. It was a caricature of a large animal in a dress with the caption, "Miss Piggy, Pride." Halima felt the hot sting of tears but refused to let them fall. She crumpled the paper and threw it away. This was the weight her mother had warned her about. She had to be strong enough to carry it. She focused on the goal, the prize money. For her family, she could endure this. She would use their ridicule as fuel for her fire. Preparations for the pageant began in earnest. The 10 finalists were called for a meeting with Mrs. Chuku, who was put in charge of coaching them. The first session was on poise and walking. In the school hall, Mrs. Chuku demonstrated a graceful walk. "You must own the space. Walk with purpose, with confidence," she instructed. The talent round was a major portion of the score. Aisha was practicing a complex traditional dance. Another girl was preparing a monologue from a Shakespeare play. Halima was stuck. She couldn't dance like Aisha, and she felt a poem wasn't enough. She needed something that was authentically her, something that showcased a different kind of skill. She thought about her home, her culture. She remembered the stories her grandmother used to tell, stories of strong women and ancient kingdoms, stories told with a specific rhythmic cadence. An idea began to form. What if her talent wasn't just reciting a poem, but performing a griot-style storytelling? She could tell the story of Queen Amina of Zazao, a warrior queen known for her strength and leadership. It would be powerful, it would be intelligent, and it would be uniquely African. She ran the idea by Mrs. Chuku, who nodded thoughtfully. "It's risky. They might not understand it. But if you do it well, Halima, it could be unforgettable." The evening gown round presented a problem money could solve. Most of the other contestants had parents who could afford to have a gown tailor-made or even buy one from a boutique. Halima knew better than to ask her mother for money for a dress. It was an impossible request. She felt the dream slipping away again, defeated not by taunts, but by poverty. Mama Halima saw her daughter's despair. One evening, she went to her old metal trunk and took out a carefully folded bundle. It was her own wedding gele, a head tie of the most beautiful deep blue asooke fabric with intricate silver thread patterns. "We cannot buy a new dress," Mama Halima said, "but we can make one. We will use this, and I have a wrapper that matches." Halima's eyes filled with tears. This was her mother's most prized possession. Together they visited Mama Chidi, the best tailor in their area. They would create a traditional gown, a fusion of modern style and timeless culture, more beautiful than any store-bought dress. As the pageant night drew closer, Aisha grew more competitive. She was used to being the front runner, but Halima's quiet determination and the support from Mrs. Chuku unnerved her. She decided to launch a new strategy. psychological warfare. She started a rumor that Halima had only made the finals because the teachers felt sorry for her. It's affirmative action for ugly girls, Binta whispered loudly in the cafeteria, eliciting laughter. Aisha also made a point of practicing her dance in the school hall when she knew Halima would be there, flaunting her grace and agility. She would offer backhanded compliments. "It's so brave of you to do this, Halima. Really, it inspires all of us to be confident." Halima learned to simply smile and say, "Thank you, Aisha. I am inspired by your confidence too." She refused to be drawn into a war of words. Her battle would be won on the stage, not in the school corridors. A major part of the pageant was the Q&A session, where judges would ask questions about current affairs and social issues. While other contestants focused on their looks, Halima buried herself in the school library. She read newspapers, pored over history books, and practiced articulating her thoughts. Her intellect was a secret weapon. During a practice session, Mrs. Chuku asked a tough question. "If you could change one thing about our education system, what would it be and why?" Aisha gave a generic answer about needing more computers. When it was Halima's turn, she spoke passionately about the need for practical skills training. "Not every child will go to university. We should teach girls how to start a business, how to manage money. We need to teach boys and girls about equality and respect. Education should prepare us for life, not just for exams." Her answer was thoughtful, original, and delivered with a conviction that silenced the room. The other girls suddenly looked very young. The final rehearsal was a disaster for Halima. They were on the actual stage in the town hall where the pageant would be held. The lights were hot and blinding. When Halima walked out for the evening gown segment, the heels she was borrowing from Fatima wobbled dangerously. She stumbled, almost falling. A gasp, followed by suppressed laughter, came from the other contestants backstage. Her griot storytelling, which had felt powerful in the empty school hall, now seemed out of place under the bright lights. Her voice sounded small and echoed in the large, empty space. She lost her place halfway through. Mr. Yusuf looked concerned. "Perhaps something simpler, Halima." "A song," he suggested. For the first time since she began, Halima felt true despair. Maybe they were all right. Maybe she was a fool. She went home that night feeling the full weight of her ambition, and it threatened to crush her. Halima sat silently on the floor of their room, fighting back tears. Her younger sister Aisha, named for the cousin who had passed, crawled into her lap. She was only 6. "Don't be sad, big sister," she whispered, patting Halima's face. "You are the most beautiful. You tell the best stories." Her innocent faith was a balm to Halima's wounded spirit. Mama Halima came and sat beside her. "A lion does not turn back because a goat bleats," she said softly, using a favorite proverb. "You have come this far, my daughter. The stage is afraid of you, not you of it. You feel it with your presence. You must walk like you own the ground beneath your feet. You must speak like your words are wisdom for kings. Do not try to be a delicate gazelle. Be the powerful lioness that you are." Her words reignited the fire in Halima's belly. She would not give up. She would walk onto that stage as herself, unapologetically. The night before the pageant, the school was buzzing with excitement. Halima, however, was calm. She had polished her storytelling, making it more rhythmic and powerful. She had practiced walking in the hills until her feet ached, but she could now do it without wobbling. Her traditional gown, created from her mother's aso-oke, was ready. It was a masterpiece of deep blue and silver, tailored to fit her form perfectly, celebrating her curves rather than hiding them. Aisha and her friends were holding a final practice session on the school grounds, their laughter carrying on the night air. Halima watched them from a distance. She felt a strange sense of pity for Aisha. Her confidence seemed so fragile, so dependent on winning. Halima, win or lose, had already won something greater. She had found her own voice. She had discovered a strength she didn't know she possessed. The crown was just an object. The transformation was real. The day of the pageant dawned gray and oppressive. By midday, the skies had opened up, a typical tropical downpour that flooded the streets and threatened to cancel the event. Halima's heart sank. It felt like a sign from the universe. But the rain stopped as suddenly as it had begun, leaving the air clean and fresh. The real storm was at home. Halima's youngest brother Sani had developed a high fever. Mama Halima was frantic, preparing to take him to the clinic. "I may not make it to the hall, my child," she said, her face etched with worry. Halima felt a pang of disappointment, but she understood. Family came first. "It's okay, Mama. Take care of Sani," she said, hugging her mother tightly. She would have to do this alone, without her mother's anchoring presence in the audience. It was her final test of independence. The backstage area of the town hall was chaotic. Girls were surrounded by mothers and aunties, applying makeup, fixing hair, and offering last-minute advice. Halima was alone. She carefully put on her traditional gown, the rich fabric feeling like armor. She styled her hair herself, plaiting it into an elegant crown. She applied a little lip gloss, her only makeup. Aisha was a vision in a shimmering pink gown, surrounded by her entourage. She glanced at Halima's traditional attire and smirked, whispering something to Binta. Halima ignored them. She closed her eyes and took deep breaths, repeating her mother's words like a mantra. "Be the lioness." The noise of the arriving audience filtered backstage, a low, excited hum. The air was thick with perfume, hairspray, and anticipation. The moment was here. The music swelled, and the host, a popular local radio personality, welcomed the packed hall. One by one, the contestants were introduced. When Aisha walked out, there was a wave of applause and cheers. She smiled brilliantly, blowing kisses to the audience. Then, it was Alima's turn. The host announced her name. As she walked onto the stage, a silence fell over the crowd. It was not a hostile silence, but one of sheer surprise. She held her head high, her back straight. The deep blue of her asoke gown glimmered under the stage lights. The silver threads caught the light, making her seem to glow from within. She did not try to walk like the other girls. She walked with a slow, deliberate, powerful grace. She reached the center of the stage, smiled, not a shy, girlish smile, but a confident, warm one, and looked directly at the audience. And then, something incredible happened. From the back of the hall, a single person started clapping, then another, and then the silence broke into a wave of genuine, respectful applause. Halima had commanded their attention. The talent round began. Aisha's dance was technically perfect, a flurry of colorful movements that earned enthusiastic cheers. Another girl sang a pop song sweetly. When Halima's turn came, she asked for the stage lights to be dimmed, leaving a single spotlight on her. She held a traditional fan. She began not with words, but with a rhythm, tapping the fan against her palm. Her voice, when she started, was low and melodic, using the cadence of the griots. "I will tell you a story of a time when strength was a woman's name. A story of Amina, daughter of Bakwa, queen of Zazao." She didn't just recite, she performed. Her voice rose and fell. Her body moved with the story. Her expressions conveyed power, sorrow, and triumph. She transported the audience. When she finished, with a powerful declaration of Amina's legacy, there was a breathless silence for a second, followed by thunderous, roaring applause that dwarfed all others. She had not just performed, she had moved them. For the evening gown round, the contestants walked the stage to music, showcasing their elegance. Halima was the last to walk. As she moved into the light, a murmur of appreciation ran through the crowd. Her gown was unlike any other, unapologetically African, regal, and stunningly beautiful on her frame. It celebrated her heritage and her body. She walked slowly, confidently, her head held high. She wasn't just modeling a dress, she was presenting a culture. She was a queen from a history book, powerful and majestic. The audience saw not a big girl trying to fit in, but a proud, beautiful woman owning her space. The applause was warm and sustained. In that moment, the conventional definition of beauty was being challenged and rewritten right before their eyes. The final round was the impromptu Q&A. Each finalist would draw a question from a bowl. Aisha drew, "What is the most important quality of a leader?" She gave a polished answer, "Charisma. A leader must be able to inspire people." It was a good answer. Halima walked to the center of the stage, her heart hammered. She reached into the bowl and pulled out a slip of paper. The question was, "What is true beauty?" A hush fell over the hall. It was the question that defined her entire journey. She took a deep breath, looking out at the audience. "True beauty," she began, her voice clear and strong, "is not a size or a shape. It is not a face. True beauty is resilience. It is the beauty of a mother who works tirelessly for her children. It is the beauty of intelligence and a kind heart. It is the confidence to be yourself in a world that tells you to be someone else. True beauty does not ask for permission. It simply is." Her answer was met with a moment of stunned silence, then an explosion of applause that seemed to shake the very foundations of the hall. The judges retreated backstage to deliberate. The 10 finalists stood together, the tension palpable. Aisha looked pale. She had heard the audience's reaction to Halima. She approached Halima. "You think you've won, don't you?" she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. "With your homemade dress and your stories?" Halima looked at her calmly. "I didn't do this to beat you, Aisha. I did it to show every girl who has ever been told she's not good enough that they are wrong." Aisha stared at her, speechless. The gap between their worlds had never been wider. Backstage, the judges were in a heated debate. It was between Halima and Aisha. The decision was not easy. As the judges debated, a commotion was heard at the entrance of the hall. Mama Halima, her wrapper slightly damp from the rain, hurried in, carrying a sleeping Sani on her back. She had rushed from the clinic, not wanting to miss the announcement. She found a seat at the back just as the judges were returning to the stage. Her presence, though Halima didn't see her yet, was a final piece of the puzzle falling into place. The host took to the stage, building the suspense. "Ladies and gentlemen, the judges have reached a decision." It was incredibly close. Our runners-up will receive cash prizes, but only one will be Miss School Pride. The spotlight swept over the 10 nervous girls. Halima closed her eyes, playing not for victory, but for the strength to accept whatever outcome awaited her. She had already proven everything she needed to prove to herself. The second runner-up is Grace Okafor. Grace, beaming, stepped forward to receive her prize. And the first runner-up, the host paused dramatically. This was a very difficult decision. The first runner-up is Aisha Abubakar. Aisha's smile froze on her face. First runner-up. She had lost. The crowd applauded politely as she forced a smile and accepted her ribbon. She had been dethroned. She glanced at Halima, and for a fleeting moment, the mask of confidence fell away, revealing the shock and disappointment of a girl who had never learned how to lose. Halima's mind raced. If Aisha was first runner-up, then that meant it was between her and one other girl for the crown. Her knees felt weak. She couldn't breathe. She saw Mama Halima now standing at the back, her hands clasped over her mouth, her eyes shining with tears of pride. It didn't matter anymore if she won. Her mother was here. Her mother was proud. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the host's voice boomed. The winner of the inaugural Miss School Pride pageant, the girl who exemplifies confidence, intellect, and beauty is... The drum roll echoed through the hall. Halima held her breath. Halima Ibrahim. The world stopped. For a second, there was silence, as if the audience itself was processing the result. Then, the hall erupted. The applause was deafening, a roaring wave of acceptance and triumph. Halima stood frozen, unable to move. Tears streamed down her face. It was Fatima who gently pushed her forward. The crown, sparkling under the lights, was placed on her head. The sash was draped over her shoulder. She was no longer the girl they laughed at. She was Miss School Pride. The host handed her the microphone. The crowd quieted, eager to hear from the unexpected queen. Halima looked out at the sea of faces, her vision blurry with tears. She found her mother's face in the crowd and smiled. They laughed when I picked up the form, she began, her voice trembling but clear. They said, "Who will clap for an elephant?" A nervous chuckle ran through the audience. But you see, an elephant is strong. An elephant is wise. An elephant never forgets who it is. This crown is not just for me. It is for every person who has ever been told they are not enough. You are enough. Your beauty, your strength, your intelligence, it is enough. Thank you for helping this elephant find her roar. Her speech was met with a standing ovation. The celebration backstage was chaotic. Teachers, students, and even parents swarmed around Halima, wanting to congratulate her. Aisha and her group had already left, unable to face the defeat. Mama Halima fought her way through the crowd and enveloped her daughter in a crushing hug. "My lioness," she whispered, her own body shaking with sobs of joy. The 50,000 naira check felt insignificant compared to the pride in her mother's eyes. Mr. Yusuf shook her hand, a look of newfound respect on his face. "You taught us all a lesson today, Halima, a very important one." Even Mrs. Chuku, usually stern, had a small, satisfied smile on her face. Halima was the center of a universe that had once pushed her to the margins. The crown on her head was light, but the feeling of self-worth it symbolized was the heaviest, most precious thing she had ever carried. Monday morning at school was different. The whispers that followed Halima were now whispers of awe and respect. Shy girls from the junior classes would look at her and smile. In the cafeteria, Fatima sat with her like a proud bodyguard. The crown was safe in its box at home, but its effect was permanent. Aisha avoided her, the hierarchy of the school forever altered. Halima walked the same dusty paths, but she walked them as a changed person. She had not just won a pageant, she had shattered a narrow definition of beauty for everyone at Kano State Secondary School. She had shown them that beauty comes in more than one shape, that confidence is the most attractive quality, and that sometimes the person no one believes in is the one who has the most to teach them all. The elephant had not just been clapped for, she had received a standing ovation. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think about Halima's attitude towards success, despite all the bullies and body shaming from her mates? Please put your comment down in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so that you will be notified whenever we post new videos. Bye!